My name's Roisin and this is going to be a long day. Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. So it is 6 AM on the 20th of February and I'm in an undisclosed location. No, I'm in my my new office, which I am currently in the process of doing up, which is a video you will see when I finally get around to finishing it. But that's not what this video is about. Today is the 24-hour readathon as part of the Irish Readathon. Yes, just realised I have a wash on. If you can hear that in the background, I apologise. I was intending to stay up and do actually 24 hours. But then my boyfriend reminded me that I have a chronic illness and if I did that I would be completely destroyed for the rest of the week and I have to go to work next week. So we're not going to do that. Instead I just got up 2 hours earlier than normal and I'm going to read for 18 hours out of the next 24. I'm going to try my best. So I have the Henna Wars on audiobook, which I'm going to try and listen to for as long as that takes. That is the group book for the Irish Readathon. It is a YA romance about two girls who are competing in a talent show, I believe, to be the best henna artist, but also they get to know one another, they have a rivalry, but they also have feelings for one another. Not my kind of book usually, but it sounds really cute and I've heard lots of people saying really good things about it. Then, once I finish that, I also have Days Without End by Sebastian, which I am trying to read for a different video, which will come out after this one, but I haven't started yet. So I reckon I can probably read both of those today, if I'm actually going to read for 18 hours. I don't know how well I will do on that, but this isn't too big or too long. This is a historical fiction book set during the 1850s in America when two Irish boys go to fight, I believe, for the Confederate Army, and it's about their experience there. Having fled terrible hardships, their days are now vivid and filled with wonder, despite the horrors they see and are complicit in. Then, when a young Indian girl crosses their path, the possibility of lasting happiness seems within reach, if only they can survive. So, I'm intrigued by that. It was longlisted for the Man Booker and won the Costa Book Awards back when it came out, so that is exciting. And if I do finish both of those, then I also have A Ghost in the Throat by Doreen Negrifa, which is a cross between non-fiction and auto-fiction about a poet from the 17th century and Doreen Negrifa in the current day about being a mother and a writer. So I'm excited for that. Those are the three books that I have for today. I doubt I'm going to get through more than those three. But we will see. I might find another audiobook if I feel the need to, if I finish these, if I get too tired to read physical copies and I need to listen to something later on. But that is the plan so far today and I will catch up with you later. Listening to the audiobook of the Henna Wars, but I'm also going to put up my bookcase now. So that's what you're going to get now, is a montage, time-lapse of as many clips as I can actually manage to get in this tiny room of me working out some flat back furniture. It's quite hard to film listening to an audiobook because it's even more boring than watching someone read a physical book. So hopefully this activity will be of interest. Doesn't quite fit. Quite hard to build in such a small room. Sure it would make it through this door though if I built it somewhere else, so doing the best we can. I'm listening to the audiobook of the Henna Wars, and it's kind of annoying that they've chosen an American actress to do the audiobook for it when it keeps talking about being set in Ireland, but she's got such a like really American accent. That's my only criticism so far. Hello, so I've listened to 2.5 hours of the Henna Wars so far. We're just getting into the point of the actual Henna Wars. The like meet cutes already happened between the two romantic leads. It's fine, it's alright. If you read a lot of YA or you are a teenager, I think it skews quite young. So I think if you were like 13, 14, maybe it would be more your thing than if you were a little bit older. It's handling some topics like racism and homophobia, but very lightly in, I guess, a teen appropriate way. I don't know, it's just, I don't read YA, so it was never going to be my favourite thing ever, but I think some YA can transcend, but this very much feels like a YA that is for 13 or 14-year-olds rather than one that like transcends. But it's great to have that representation, queer, non-white people and teenagers. It's great for queer teenagers, particularly if they are Desi. Good representation, but the actual writing and the story is very simple and just not really my style. But I will finish reading it. I think it's kind of unfair of me to judge it because it's not for me. So it feels like unfair to judge, but in terms of my enjoyment, it's not that high. Like, it's very easy listening, but it's not really my style, or something that I would choose to read. Okay, this is why you don't get Americans to read Irish books. She just said we're in the middle of we're just in the middle of how'd you say it? She said we're just in the middle of Dún Laoghaire. Dún Laoghaire. I'm pretty sure she means Dunleary. God. You'd think that they would have like someone to check the pronunciations of things if they don't know them. Hello. So it's 11:30 now. I have retired to bed with a migraine. But I'm going to keep going, keep reading as much as I can. I'm 2/3 of the way through the Henna Wars now. It's really not for me. Like, it's fine, but it's quite boring, I think is my main complaint. Like, I can understand how it's important to have this representation, and I think the representation is done well, but the actual story and the writing just aren't my style at all. Like, I can deal with some romance, but this is so young, I think, is the thing, and that's fine because it's YA, it's what it's meant to be. Again, like I said, I feel weird critiquing it because it's doing what it's meant to do well, but it doesn't transcend, I don't think, out of that child's perspective, so I'm not loving it, personally. But I'm going to finish it, and then I've started the first chapter of this. The writing style is taking me a bit to get used to. I'm not quite used to it yet, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. It's very, very short though, much shorter than I thought it was because the writing's massive. So I think I'm going to finish it fairly quickly, but that's the plan. I feel like this audiobook has been Americanised on purpose. Like, they're still talking about being in Dublin and Ireland, but they're paying for things in dollars and saying it's 40 degrees out rather than, what's that, like 10 degrees? 8 degrees Celsius? Something like that. So I find it confusing. I don't really understand what's going on. Like, is it like that in the book? That it's kind of weirdly American but not? Or has it been changed for the audiobook because they don't think that American teenagers can handle something being set in Ireland and not in America? I don't know, it's confusing. But there we go. It's much bigger than I thought it was. Hopefully once I've sorted out that mess in the corner and got things up to where I want them to be, it will seem less intimidatingly large. But who knows? It is quite a big bookcase. That's what we want, isn't it? Not that I've got that many books, and apparently I've gone Welsh, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I have finished the Henna Wars now, and it is 1:30. So I still have, what is that, 10.5 hours of reading left to do today. So I've got ages to, definitely going to finish Days Without End. I have a book that's coming in the post that I thought would be here by now, that would have been perfect to read for this as well, but it isn't here yet, so not going to read that one. I didn't really like the Henna Wars very much. The dialogue felt very stilted. It didn't feel very real. Like, the events all seemed like real things that could happen, but it felt very forced, kind of like afternoon special, kind of. And it didn't really work for me. As I've said all the way through, I think it's one of those teen books that doesn't translate to adults enjoying it. Like, and I enjoy the representation is really good, and it's really important to have a representation like this, especially in teen books. Well, not especially, but it is also important in teen books to have teen representations of queer teen romances, especially queer teen romances for Muslim kids, and all that sort of thing is important. But that doesn't detract from the fact that as a book, the writing and the way everything hung together wasn't particularly strong, wasn't very good. For me, the writing felt stilted. It all felt like a draft. It felt like it was all plotted out, but none of the actual like emotional impact was there, because it just felt very like, might have been something to do with the actress doing it as well. Very like, yes, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. It was very, and I've read better YA, and I don't generally read YA. It's not meant for me. So whilst I didn't think it was good, I didn't think it was well done for my taste. I do think that if I knew any 13 or 14-year-olds, I'd recommend it to them to read, but for me, it just didn't transcend. So I'm probably going to put some clothes on now, because I don't want to be vlogging in my boyfriend's t-shirt and my pyjama bottoms all day. I want to look a little more presentable than this. So I'm going to put some clothes on, but I might end up going back upstairs and getting into bed, because my migraine, the pain has faded since I've taken some ibuprofen, but it just makes me feel so tired. So I'm probably going to go and do that from bed, and read Days Without End. We got a weighted blanket the other day. My boyfriend got it for me, well, for both of us, but I get anxious, and it's supposed to be good for anxiety. We're not sure how we feel about it yet, because you can't turn over. It's not as easy to turn over in bed when you've got a weighted blanket on top of you. But I haven't felt anxious since we've got it, and I don't know if it's because the blanket's been helping or if I've just not been in an anxious mood. We'll have to see if I start feeling anxious and then get under the blanket. How well it does its work. It's also probably lunchtime, so I might get something to eat as well. Okay, so I'm quite far away. I don't know if you can hear me. And you're also, the framing's terrible. I will sort it out in a minute. But I've got dressed, as you can see, and I'm going to start reading Days Without End now. I've had my lunch. Took a break from reading whilst I had my lunch, because I can't read a physical book and eat at the same time, especially not a library book. I get far too anxious about that. So I'm about a quarter of the way through Days Without End now, but I keep falling asleep. My eyes keep drifting off, and I only got up slightly early this morning, but I keep falling asleep trying to read this book. Not because it's not good, it's really good. It's written from the perspective of a guy who, Thomas McNulty, I don't think I've been told that that's his name, but that's what it says on the back. And he's telling you the story, and it's written in like dialect, kind of, in his way of speaking, I suppose, which is not like the way that I speak. It's not like a book that's written more, it's written in his voice, in his tone of voice, which is good, and I'm enjoying it, and there are no speech marks, etc. But I think it's good, and it's really kind of poetic, the way he repeats things. There's a lot of poetry in it. There's been a lot of like horrific things that have already happened. Like he has been in the army, and it starts off with him at a funeral of a man that's died. Then he kind of flashes back to what he was doing in the army, but then he also kind of flashes back to the Irish potato famine, which is how he ended up in America in the first place, and what happened in Canada when he got there. the continuation of the famine there, and then he also talks about what they are doing to the Native Americans as part of the army, like the butchery that is going on, and it's a lot of hard reading. It's very quick. It's also queer, which I kind of think I knew, but I wasn't sure. But yeah, it's also a queer book, same as the Henna Wars, although entirely different in every other way. I'm enjoying it so far, but yeah, I keep falling asleep. So I think I'm gonna have to try and find an audiobook of something else and like rest my eyes for a bit. And then come back to it, because I'm so tired. Okay, so I have found the audiobook for Don't Touch My Hair by Henna Dabiri, who is an Irish writer, and it's a non-fiction book about race and hair, the history of hair, and how that relates to race. And she's talking about colorism. The first chapter is talking about colorism and how that relates to hair, and how if you have lighter skin but more afro-textured hair, then you will still be considered more black than if you have darker skin but more like fine textured, more like white textured hair. Yeah, it's really interesting, but I'm glad I found an audiobook. I'm going to try and go downstairs, sit somewhere where I'm like sat up rather than lying down, and read this, and make myself a cup of tea, because I think I need some caffeine as well. But it's good to have both, so I can flick back and forth between both, and that adds a non-fiction book as well, because if you've watched, I don't know where that's come from, if you've watched my goals video or any of my TBRs, you will know I'm trying to read 2 non-fiction books a month, and I haven't read any yet this month, and I don't think I read any last month either. I'm basically trying to read 24 non-fiction books this year, so if it gets to November and I've read none, I can just read non-fiction books all November. That's fine. But it's good to read some. Anyway, so I'm going to read this and listen to that for the rest of today. It is now about 4 o'clock, which means I have 8 hours left, and also I might want to watch the rugby. It's the England-Ireland Six Nations rugby today. I haven't been watching the Six Nations as much as I normally do, because normally I go to the pub and watch Six Nations, and it's more about the atmosphere than anything else. I enjoy the rugby, but like I'm not enjoying it. I don't love it so much that I want to watch it by myself at home. And I don't think England or Ireland can win the Six Nations this year. I think it's going to be Wales, which, you know, Cymru am Blath to all my Welsh people. I support Ireland, but if it has to be anyone else, I'm happy it's the Welsh. These are on offer because they're special edition Christmas biscuits, and it's March, so they were only 60p, which for a chocolate digestive, an actual like branded one, not too bad. So I've got my cup of tea and I've got biscuits, because I feel like snacks are essential if I'm trying to keep myself awake. I can't believe it's only 4:30 and I'm already having to keep myself awake to keep reading. Ridiculous. Anyway, I am enjoying them. They are Christmas pudding spiced biscuits and they taste really good. I'm going to put the rugby on in a minute, but I'll put it on mute, so it'll be on in the background, but I won't be too distracted by it, hopefully. So, rugby is finished. Ireland won, which is a great result considering this is the Irish Readathon. And I am halfway through Days Without End now. According to Storygraph, I am 53% of the way through, to be precise. I'm enjoying it, I am, but it is very literary and lots of traumatic things happen, which is makes it quite a slow read, which is difficult for a 24-hour read as much as you can readathon kind of style. So I'm going to read a bit more of that, try and get 3/4 of the way through, and then I might have a bath and move on to my audiobook for a while. But yeah, I am enjoying it. It is quite fast paced. There's quite a lot that happens in it. It's quite plotty in that way, but it's not really about what happens, I suppose, except for as much as it's about the trauma inflicted on people who have been colonised, and the dangers of that, and also irrepressible human spirit of Thomas McNulty and alternate ways of life, I guess. It's about these two men who are together and are not really what I was expecting. It's quite hard to describe because it's about them being in conflict with the, like, it's about them being part of the expansion westwards and the brutal attacks on Native American people during that. And you're seeing their complicity, but also their poverty and their, like, being part of this machine. And it's quite an interesting portrayal that way. Like, you don't feel like they're doing the right thing or anything like that, but you feel sympathy for some of the people involved because of how little other choice they had. I haven't quite thought through what I'm thinking about, but yeah, it's making it quite a difficult read. And on top of that, it's very lyrical writing, which is writing that you always have to take slower, but there's so much in it that's like really, really beautiful, really, really well written, and there's parts that I really want to like underline or keep or quote forever. So I'm really, really enjoying that aspect of it. Spring comes into Massachusetts with her famous flame, God's breath warming the winter out of things. That means something to 1,000 boys heaped into camp at a spot called Long Island, outside the old city of Boston. Except the endless yards of rain as thick as cloth that falls on us, battering the tents. But we got new business with the world, and our very hearts are filling with the work. That's how it seems as we set out upon our war. Hello. So, still reading, but little update. I've got some sort of nerve compression thing going on that has been going on for the past 2 hours at least. It feels like I am vibrating all over my body, and I've also got pins and needles in my hands and feet. It's a really bizarre feeling. It's like a trembling. My boyfriend said when he touched my tummy that it's like putting your hand against a bus that stopped at a traffic light. So you can feel that it's like got a slight hum, but it's not like you can see it. It's not like a proper tremor. It's just a really low level fizzing feeling, and it's also messing with my brain a little. So I'm going to keep reading and listening to audiobooks and stuff, but I just thought I should document this because it happens every so often. It's not like it's never happened before, but it is the weirdest feeling. It's mostly in my legs at the moment, although when I sit up it comes through the rest of my body a bit more. Yeah, it's just a really weird feeling. I've got 2 prolapse discs in my spine, so sometimes my spine just does weird shit. The prolapse discs will lean on nerves, and sometimes it causes pain, and sometimes it causes this weird vibration situation. Okay, so I actually can't focus when I sit up, and I've just wanted to document this as part of the day, because this is part of the day. My brain just, it's like all of my tensions just slid down into my legs. They're vibrating, and my laptop's open, it's making it really shiny. I feel lightheaded. I think I can keep reading. I might have to switch to Don't Touch My Hair for a while, because audiobook might be easier to focus on, and also it's written in such a like nice conversational style that it might be easier than the really literary Days Without End. But I kind of want to finish Days Without End. I'm trying to see if no, you can't see that I'm vibrating. I had a bath and I completely forgot to film it. What kind of terrible cozy reading vlog is this? I am halfway through, well, maybe a third of the way through Don't Touch My Hair now. So I've got 2 more hours left, so I will get to near the end of it. I'm listening to it on double speed because it's like a podcast. But I do think I'm really enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying it. And I think I would like to read a physical copy because there's just so much information in here that even if I was listening to it at regular speed, listening to it would not, like, I like to learn through listening. And I do think I learn well through listening. But I feel like, sorry, this is going at such a rapid pace. Like, not in terms of my pace. Don't need to explain it. I just think that I could benefit from having a physical copy as well and like really paying attention to it. So I think I would like to, I already feel like I want to reread this one because it's so good. It's all about hair, the history of black hair and black culture through hair. We're talking about hair as a way to talk about like the way that time is understood in Yoruba cultures, particularly because the author whose name I'm blanking on is half Yoruba, and so that culture, but she's also talking about other African cultures and time through hair and capitalism and slavery and exploitation and how that relates to hair, like relating it to the time it takes to do hair and also interpersonal relationships through hair. So it's more than just talking about beauty standards. It's using hair as like a jumping off point to talk about a lot of other things, which is really interesting and really well done. I really like the way that she's interweaving like bits of her personal story growing up in Ireland with all of this like facts, information, history, a lot of citations, a lot of books I want to read now that she's quoting, which is really interesting. And yeah, who knew a book about black hair would be an anti-capitalist book? It's really interesting. But I am very much enjoying it. So I'm going to continue to listen to that for the next 2 hours. I'm going to do some more embroidery. This is my sewing bag where I keep all my embroidery things. So I'm going to do some embroidery. So in the past I've done some floral embroidery. I'll try and put some pictures up here. And I embroidered a womb for my friend who is a like health journalist focusing on women and minority genders health. I'm trying to do some more abstract embroidery at the moment. It's kind of inspired by Mild Moss, who I will leave linked in the description. You should go and check her work out. This is just for me, like I'm not giving it away, I'm not promoting it. This is just practice of different stitches and stuff. Like I learned how to do this weird wormy stitch in the middle there. So I'm heavily inspired by her work, but I think it's okay because I'm just doing it as practice for myself. I'm not like trying to sell it to anyone or say that I made it up. I didn't. It's also not a direct copy. It's just inspiration because I'm trying to learn. And because I was talking to my partner about audiobooks and how much I love listening to audiobooks, but that I needed something to do whilst listening to them because I can't just sit there and listen. Or else I just start thinking about other stuff that's entirely unrelated. But I also wanted to get away from like looking at screens and stuff, like playing puzzle games on my phone while I listen to audiobooks is my usual thing. And he suggested I start doing my embroidery again because I'm the sort of person who never does a thing unless I have a project. So it's quite good for me to be doing this as a purely a hobby thing, not a, oh, I'm making this thing for this reason. Just I'm doing it for the fun of it and to learn, which is what I'm doing now. So it is the next day now. I always feel like I need to wrap up reading vlogs and talk to you about it at the end. rather than just fade to black at the end of the 24 hours. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Do you think that it's nice to have me here to like sum up everything I finished reading, or is just ending when the 24 hours ended fine by you? My hair, I've taken it down from the hairstyle it was in yesterday, which was meant to produce curls, but I'm a little, I mean, it's definitely curly, but I feel a bit like I look like I should be in pole dark or something, or a cavalier. So I'm unsure if it's worked quite the way that I want it to. But anyway, let's get back to talking about books. So I finished the Henna Wars right at the beginning, and I talked to you basically about how I feel about that. Fine, good representation, but I think it's for teenagers, young teenagers, not something that really works as an adult. It was something that I would definitely recommend to teenagers, but I don't think really transcends to adults. And then Days Without End by Sebastian Barry, I got to about 75%, 80% of the way through. And I had to put it down because of the weird vibrations yesterday. They have gone after a night of sleeping. I am enjoying it, but it is very tragic and very literary, and I think that trying to read it all in one day is not the best way to read a book like that. I think that it needs more like time and absorption to actually get into it. I think it's something that you have to like put down and think about for a while, and then you can get back into it because of how literary it is and because of how much ground it covers. And then I listened to most of Don't Touch My Hair yesterday, and I finished it off this morning. And I think it's possibly one of my favourite books I've read so far this year. It is really, really good. It's about race and racism and the history of racism through hair. It's about cultural appropriation and about the power dynamic that's involved in that and often left out of the conversation. It's about maths and science, computer science, and how that relates to hair. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. I love how well everything is tied to hair and how she's used like this simple or deceptively simple premise to cover a lot of history and a lot of modern, like a lot of philosophy, sociology. I don't know what subject you put it in, but it's a really well done, really well written. I think her points are really powerful, and I want to read a lot of the books that she's talking about because the way that everything we think about, we talk about through a European lens, like time and what is culture, and a lot of our conceptions are through a gender are through a white European lens, and it is therefore a lot of stuff gets ignored or left out or misunderstood because our ways of conceptualizing are so tied to the language through which we understand things. I also think that she did a really good job. Some of the things that I get frustrated in when I read books on things like feminism is that they often feel like they reach a certain point and then I feel like, yes, and can you analyse that further? I want to see, like, yes, you've this fact, but no analysis, or it seems to stop at the point where I'm just feeling like, I don't know how to explain what I mean, but she goes there. She really pushes further than I think a lot of other texts on feminism and race have gone. Talking about structures, and how individual actions, whilst representative of structures and informed by structures, are not the thing that needs to be changed so much as structure. And this belief of like patriarchy and racism as being individually inherent in a person can be true, but is not the main reason. The main thing to do is to change systems, and I think she does a really good job of talking about systems, and yeah, I think it's really, really good. It's really well written in a really conversational style that's really easy to understand and really accessible, but it still manages to be more analytical and go a little further than some of the other popular books on this subject. I'm not saying she's the only one to have ever done that, but the way that she marries these subjects with such an easy, conversational, accessible style, I think is really brilliantly well done. So I'm glad I read that one. I'm glad that I was falling asleep reading Days Without End and I needed another audiobook because I really think that it's one of the best books that I've read so far this year. So please let me know in the comments what you thought about this. Are you participating in the Irish Readathon? Have you read any of these books? Do you have any thoughts? Do I look like a King Charles Spaniel? I feel like I look just like King Charles. Might be the fringe. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and to subscribe, because I put out new videos 3 times a week, and so I will see you again very, very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.